All right, y'all. I think we are live. Hey, what is going on, y'all? Everybody, hello to all the attendees here at GCX 2021. Welcome to our Explore Middle Earth panel. I'm Glam Shatterskull, and we are joined by three of the internet's greatest Tolkien scholars. We're actually going to just go around the circle here and let everybody introduce themselves. We'll go, let's go clockwise. So below me, we have KrystiPryde.
I'm KrystiPryde. I am a Tolkien enthusiast. I run a Tolkien-themed podcast called You Have My Sword. I've been working in the video game industry for roughly 100 years, and I also do comedy.
Hell yeah. And then let's go ahead and, well, hey, Krysty, why don't you tell us who's your favorite character in all of Middle-earth?
It's going to have to be either Gimli or Gandalf.
Cool. Let's go, keep on going around. We got Don over here, Don Marshall.
Hello, yes, I am Don Marshall. I go by Don Marshall72 on all of my socials. I am also a Lord of the Rings enthusiast. Favorite character is Samwise Gamgee for obvious reasons, but a close second is Boromir, and I know I'm going to catch some flack for that, but I will stand by it. I'll explain later. I'll go on the rant later.
Hell yes. And then last but definitely not least, we have KnewBettaDoBetta.
Hey, what's going on? I'm KnewBettaDoBetta. The same on all my social media platforms. I am a TikTok content creator, and I'm new to this whole thing, but I am a Tolkien enthusiast. And my favorite character is the Witch King of Angmar, and my close second is Sauron. So yeah, I'm the bad guy.
Let's go. Love it. So the purpose of this panel today is we are going to be talking about the Lord of the Rings intellectual property and what we kind of have to look forward to from video games, movies, TV shows on Middle-earth. In the video game realm, I know that we don't really have a lot going on. Quite recently, the anticipated Lord of the Rings MMO by Amazon was canceled. The only thing I really saw about that was that they had some issues with Tencent, who was supposed to be working on the game. But I don't know, did anybody know anything else about that? Or were y'all looking forward to that MMO at all? Did y'all play Lotro, or do you play Lotro?
I was looking forward to that game because I wanted something to replace Lotro, because Lotro is more time consuming, but
True.
Yeah, you can't force something.
No, it's totally true.
Yeah, this was actually my most anticipated game. Unfortunately, I was looking for something that would kind of fill that World of Warcraft void for me and be like the next level to Lord of the Rings Online, which I've played and I love. So it looks like I'll be going back to Lord of the Rings Online.
Yeah.
As a former and current WoW addict, I also have to say I was kind of looking forward to it. Currently playing TBC Classic for anybody interested. I'm a horde. But I kind of understand why it didn't work out. I'm hoping Lotro maybe gets some more love because of this, though. Here's hoping.
Right.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Good point.
That would be excellent. I've just recently started dabbling in Lotro. I forgot I didn't really introduce myself. I'm Glam Shatterskull. I'm a streamer on Twitch, and recently I've just started doing a complete playthrough of every single Lord of the Rings game ever released, starting with 1982's text-based The Hobbit.
You crazy man, you.
Yeah. But we're sprinkling in Lotro, so I'm in and out of Lotro as we go through the chrono, because there's just so much content in Lord of the Rings Online. It's really, really cool.
Wonderful game.
Yeah, no, it really is a good game, and for anybody that's watching that is like interested in playing Lord of the Rings games, all the new Lord of the Rings games are fantastic, but Lord of the Rings Online holds up so well. I really suggest anybody give it a try.
For sure.
Very true.
The other game I think we have to talk about would be the Golem game that's upcoming. Now,
I'm excited.
Yeah, y'all are excited about this. Who wants to hit us with the timelines on this? I think this takes place after Bilbo has taken the ring.
So if I may jump on this
Go for
really
it.
quickly, I have my own theory. None of this is confirmed, full disclosure. But I think if we are starting, like the rumors have said, in Gollum being in Mordor, I feel like it makes sense for the game itself to be Gollum sneaking from Mordor to get to the Shire or wherever. New or Krysty, maybe you can sort of imbue your knowledge on this one. Like Gollum catches up with them in Moria, but like he follows them the entire way down until he gets to Frodo. So like I don't know how we're gonna do that, but as someone who constantly plays a stealth archer in Skyrim, the idea of a sneaking game through Mordor sounds amazing.
Yeah, fully agree on that. Co-sign that. I'm interested to see kind of the direction they go with this because that makes the most sense, Don, obviously, and I fully co-sign that and agree. But the interesting thing with moving forward, Tolkien's estate moving forward and using this IP for different properties is they can obviously take any kind of creative liberty they want, for better or for worse. So it's like really hard to speculate on what they're going to do with games and future media. So it makes me a little nervous, but being such a Lord of the Rings fan, I'll consume anything that is created under the, the Tolkien umbrella.
For sure.
So yeah, I think they should start with a strong base. I'm always somebody who advocates what's in the book should go into whatever property you're going to create.
Yep.
So we know he goes to Lake Town. We know he goes to Mordor. We know he goes to the Dead Marshes. We know he runs into Aragorn at some point in the Dead Marshes. Now use Aragorn's popularity as a springboard and make the game great. If you put Aragorn in the game will explode because he's people's favorite character moreover than a lot of people. And people wanted to see an Aragorn show so bad, put him in the game,
Genius.
have him capture him, and definitely put him in Mirkwood, where he goes and he gets captured, and then he gets escapes with the help of the orcs. And all of this stuff, it gives a great timeline, and it gives a lot of things to do, not just necessarily, I'm sneaking around Mordor and trying to find this, but you have a lot of chapters you can cover and a lot of ground you can cover. So you're going to different places. So I think that would do a lot of world building, and it'll give you a lot of different places to go. It'll give the people who playing the game an incentive. Oh, I get to go to Lake Town. I get to go to the Dead Marshes. I get to go to Mirkwood. I get to sneak over the Anduin, and I get to go over and go to Moria and things like that. So I'm excited to see if they do that.
I mean, that would be the obvious decision, and the smart decision is to kind of make things that are already familiar to the fandom like the focal point, and then from there you can explore new areas of Middle Earth and introduce yourself to new characters and stuff. But it feels like the correct thing to do is be like, hey, Aragorn, you've been to Mirkwood in the movies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I love that idea. I completely forgot Gollum's timeline and all of this, and knew you bringing it up. It's like, oh right, he's held captive in Mirkwood for a while. There's some big battles that Gollum's a part of. I love it.
Now this
people don't even understand our boy's struggle. Gollum's been a fucking around.
Yeah. Now this being a Warner Brothers game,
he may have seen Sauron. He said there's only 9 fingers on the black hand.
Oh, you're right.
Are we gonna get a Sauron cameo? That'd be
really cool. Well, I was thinking that it's also a Warner Brothers game, so I'm wondering if they'll tie in any of the characters from like Shadow of War, like if we'll get like Talon or any of those types of characters, because it would be around the same time, right? Because Gollum obviously is in the Shadows games.
Yeah, roughly, just about that same timeline. That's a good thought. I love that tie-in.
Right. Because some of those Shadows of War characters are very, very cool.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Shadow of War took creative liberties that I felt good.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, I'm all right with all of those. I will say I love the idea of exploring the Wraith world, and like this is what the Nazgul see all of the time. Now, whether or not they get superpowers and have the ability to like teleport and shoot wraith arrows is another matter entirely, but I quite like the delving into that other stuff.
Well, okay, so while we're talking about the wraiths, there seems to be a very interesting kind of back and forth in regards to, do the wraiths still have their rings? Or does Sauron have their rings? And if they do have their rings, do they still wear them? Or does Sauron keep them in Barad-dûr?
Right. Or did they have them when they were put in their tombs, and did, whoever buried the Nazgul get the rings?
Yeah, there's a very fun kind of like, where are those rings? Where are the 9 rings of men?
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I think I'm of the belief that they have them.
Right.
But Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
Well, because there's nothing that Tolkien has written that is like affirmative in what has happened. So it's kind of just like people kind of combing through the information that we do have and using context to kind of figure out where these rings could be, because there's no definitive answer, which I think is really fun.
I thought that I found that interesting in the Hobbit movie when they went to Angmar's grave, and I'm like, where does it say that the Witch King died in that manner to where there was a grave for him and they buried him? He fled from Glorfindel and the forces of the king from Gondor. So why would you say there was a grave? He fled and then he went to Minas Ithil, and there was no grave in Angmar as far as I knew. He was in control of Angmar the whole time. So that was an interesting take that I thought. Unless I missed something, you guys let me know. But so I think that the men that had the rings, they die in a sense that they transfer to the Shadow Realm and die.
Yeah.
They're dead because of that, but they're still alive. Like if I'm not speaking too wrongly, if I'm not mistaken, because Glorfindel came back from the dead, he can be in both worlds, and it says that in the book. So Glorfindel can see in both worlds. He can walk in both worlds because he came back from the halls of Mandos.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting take.
Yes,
That maybe they didn't die and they're in the Shadow Realm like Frodo was about to be.
Cool.
It would be really fun to see, the future of this IP kind of like answer some of these questions and like decide to make it canon, like answer some of these big question marks in the universe.
Tell us where the Entwives are, please.
They're dead, Don.
I know, but I don't want them to be.
So the other thing that I think is a cool aspect of the Golem game that we've been looking at is it seems to really kind of play into the more psychological aspects of Golem's character, right? We see a lot of, you have to make, just from what I've seen, I think you have to do a lot of decision-making processes on if you're listening to like the corruption of the ring, the more Golem half of his personality, or if Smeagol is fighting his way through and making those types of decisions. So, we could have some cool type of like kind of choose your own adventure-ish gameplay with multiple endings that could be really, really cool.
Oh, I'd be down for that. Yeah. Multiple replay, because look, I've played Skyrim 7 or 8 times through to the top level, and I've always wound up playing the same sneaky character. That sounds awesome. just as long as they don't give Golem any like superpowers of like, oh yeah, you can just grab this sword and hit someone with it. I was like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, agreed.
One of the things I was interested in seeing, sorry if I didn't.
No, go for it.
Well, at some point he talks to Sheila. Now, I know in the game they took the creative liberty of making her able to go turn into a woman.
Babe Shelob.
To say whether she can or not. She's part possibly Maiar. I'm not saying she's definitely Maiar, but that's my belief. Because her mother, I believe,
Ungoliant,
whether her being from the void or not, she's an entity just like the Maiar of some extent. So Shelob is more than just a spider. So at some point she must have made a deal with Golem, because I know she decided not to kill him, but he said, I can bring, like, there's a reason for her not doing that and allowing him to come back and do what he wants. So them taking that creative liberty didn't really bother me, because I know she had to communicate with Golem at some point. So that would be a really interesting thing to see.
Right.
That's a really good point. That's a really cool thing to bring up.
It is. I kind of think of them as like, they both have like a hunger, a lust for the rings of power, right? So they're almost like they're both these wild cards that are kind of in cahoots, but not really. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like they have the same goal, so they kind of work together, but not necessarily are teammates in my brain.
I do now, though, kind of like the idea, New, as you brought up, that Shelob can turn into a woman in the game, and because it's Warner Brothers, I love the idea of Shelob turning into the woman and then just having this contrast of like this 7-foot tall, beautiful woman and then this like 3-foot tall, like little scraggly thing.
I love that too. I also just love that from what we understand, Shelob can take the form of whatever she wants, and she chooses to be a spider. Like, what a sick bitch.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. I mean, for me at least, I don't like spiders.
She's such a cool character. She's really
I'm wondering if Spider is her actual form, because according to the book, her father is a regular spider. So if that's her natural form, and then because she's part Maya possibly, or whatever entity from the void that Ungoliant was, that she can take another form, just like the other Maya, Sauron, so on and so forth. It's interesting. She's she's a part of the Ainur. She has a strain of Ainur in her, sort of how, Luthien does, or even if you think about it, to a lesser degree, Elrond and Arwen, they have a strain of Ainur in them. It's a small strain, left, like an eighth or something like that, but it's still there. So I wonder
I'd like
how
to see
that
their
gets to them.
23andMe results.
I don't know if
Ancestry. Somebody get their ancestry.
I don't know if anybody's paying attention to chat at all, but all I'm seeing is #girlboss and people encouraging Shelob to step on them. So
Yeah, no, nobody, people rushing to write that Golem Shelob fanfic. Everybody, pump the brakes.
What have we done?
Don't do it. Leave it
It
alone.
probably already exists on Tumblr.
So moving on from the games, let's talk about some of the TV show things that are happening. So what do y'all want to start with? The Second Age Amazon show or the potential Silmarillion anime show? What do y'all want to, where do we want to hit here? Let's talk about the Amazon show because I feel like it's the most promising and probably has the most kind of like meaty things for us to talk about.
Let's do it.
If y'all don't know, Amazon is working on a Lord of the Rings TV show that takes place during the Second Age, which are a lot of cool stuff happens in the Second Age. The rings are created in the Second Age. The ring wraiths are created in the Second Age. Numenor is like founded and falls in the Second Age.
Yep.
Sauron rises in the Second Age. What do y'all want to see out of the Second Age? What do y'all think would contribute amazingly to this IP as a TV show that Amazon is working on?
All of it.
Yeah.
All of it.
All of it. I want it all.
Seasons and do it right. Do seasons. Take your time with the seasons. Don't be afraid to skip a long span of time. Don't be afraid to do it. We know this is what happened in the books. We never get a full, from this age to that age, a full coverage of the middle. So it's okay. Say, hey, this is what's going on. There was a time of peace. Now this is happening. Or, don't be afraid to do that. That's the most important thing to me, is them not being afraid of the timeline.
Yeah, I agree. I would love to see this span seasons. It's going to need to span over the course of several seasons to make sense. Personally, for me, what I really, really want to see, and my favorite aspect of the Second Age, is the fall of Numenor. Yeah, I think that whole aspect of, them being greedy and kind of showing the true nature of man and the repercussions is to me the most interesting aspect of the Second Age.
Oh yeah, that'd be super cool.
I personally am interested in, obviously Numenor is going to be huge, and like all of the Elven kingdoms and Galadriel founding Lothlorien and Círdan at the Grey Havens. But like, to me, I want to see Sauron as Anatar and his relationship with Celebrimbor, and
Cool,
I knew you would love,
dude.
It's gonna be so cool. And I think if they do it right, I think we could see another side of Sauron that gives so much more depth to the movies. Like, what I want from the show is not like a Game of Thrones style anything. I want this show to complement the movies so that I can watch all 5 seasons, or potentially more if they do well enough. I want to watch this TV show and go back and watch the movies and go, I understand this so much better. I know what Sauron's motivation is so much more. I've seen his rise to power, his fall, his corruption. I want to see all of the wheeling and dealing of the bad guys and like how we got set up in this world.
Yes, and how do we envision Second Age Sauron?
Gorgeous.
Babe.
Is he
Hot
like,
dude.
Yeah, I mean, agreed. My like headcanon for Second Age Sauron is kind of like a Loki-esque character.
Cool.
Because he is a trickster. He wears a disguise. He tricks, Celebrimbor into creating these rings, correct?
Yes.
So I kind of see him as being kind of like a sexy Loki kind of character in the Second Age. And because people don't know most people don't know Sauron's evolution outside of like the Third Age from the movies, and that's fine, but he really is a very interesting character, and he is a trickster, and my man loves a disguise.
Yes. He disguises himself as one of the Vanguard, so we should definitely see him with some type of blonde or white hair, and he's going to be he should be beautiful. Those are Manway's favorite elves, the Vanguard, and this is the first Vanguard elf we'll see. We've only seen the Sindar and the Noldor elves, and when I say the Sindar, any of the Teleri elves are like Sindar and you know, any of the other ones fall under the Teleri. So.
And those are the Vanyar. Those are the elves that are still in the Undying Lands that like never left.
And that's actually kind of what gives them away to it kind of gives them away from Elrond, and it gives them away from Gil-galad, because they're like,
yeah,
none of them ever came here before. We don't trust this. This doesn't make sense. But Celebrimbor, because they have the Aule, oh, I want to build and I want to learn so bad in them, they kind of just go for it because they want to learn. You know, they have that really Noldor-esque feature where they want to learn and they want to make things. And, you know, Gil-galad and Elrond are more learned in their lore, and they've actually been hanging out with Círdan, and they learn from different places and things. And the events that they've been through was a little different, so they kind of just are like, no, I don't trust this. I don't trust this. Doesn't make any sense. So they don't ignore it, and that's why he never gets permitted to enter Linden. So I think they should have it kind of start there, or even I always had an envision of them. Okay, so let's think about this. The Fellowship of the Ring, the beginning, when they explain the end of the Second Age and them beating Sauron, I think they do something similar in the beginning of the show where they explain the end of the War of Wrath, and then they even have Sauron trying to make a obeisance to Eonwë and being like, hey, listen, I want to, you know, say sorry or whatever. I want to come back, and he's like, yeah, but I don't have the power to grant that to you. And he's like, and he goes back to Middle Earth, but the gods completely, the Valar completely like, we're not going there. So now you know why nobody helps, because I get that question a lot. Why don't they come help during the Second Age and the Third Age? Well, the gods don't want to destroy the Earth anymore. They're just like, okay, well, they leave Sauron. So now you know why Sauron is and if I say Sauron, it's just because it's easier to say. I know it's Sauron.
Yeah.
But,
You're good.
Do you think we could get to meet any of the?
If they explain that, it shows that why Sauron is the strongest and why they're in such a dire straits and why nobody's coming to help them. And it shows that. And then you see, okay, what happened, where he came from, and what's going on, why he disguised himself, why he's trying to take over, and then they can go from there. Yeah, it's just a thought that I had in my head. If it was long-winded, I'm very sorry.
No, going off of that though, like maybe we'll get to see some Einar in this. Maybe we'll see Morgoth like interacting with Sauron, you know, and helping drive his motivations, because that would be really cool.
Yeah,
a flashback would be awesome.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you do the Second Age right, you can set it up to make there be a demand for a First Age series. Because like when they made the Lord of the Rings movies, everything after the fact, after the Return of the King came out, was, well, are you going to do the Hobbit? Are you going to do the Hobbit? And they did. And so to me, this Second Age introduction is like, but wait, there's more. And then once you watch the Second Age stuff, you're like, but wait, there's even more. And I feel like we could do a lot of cool stuff with tying in, like you said, new backstory of Morgoth and all of the First Stage stuff with the Vanyar and the Valar and all that would be incredible to see.
Yeah. I think that'd be awesome. I also want to see one of the main things I want to see is the war with the Sauron and the elves, because then that really sets up why they're in such dire straits, why a lot of them flee. In the Third Age, you're seeing the elves flee, and you don't know, they get weary of the world. You kind of just don't really know why they're leaving. But most of them already left, and Rivendell can't help, Linden can't help, because they don't even have the forces. Most of the elves leave because of what Sauron did. And, you know, Rivendell was set up as a refuge. You'll see the creation of that. You'll see this before they have the ring. Think about that. You'll see Rivendell before Elrond has the Ring of Power. So Rivendell and Lothlorien won't have their safeguards. They won't be as strong as they are in the Third Age, technically. Because
I totally forgot about that. Yeah, you are absolutely right. We're not going to see Rivendell at its like final form of all that power. Oh, that's cool.
It's a really good.
It's actually like a Helm's Deep if you think about it.
Right.
They have to retreat to it. He has to find somewhere to be safe. Sauron is ruining them. And then you'll see why he's so big. He kills Celebrimbor, puts him on a pike, and walks around as his banner. He destroys the Brown Lands where the Entwives are. He completely decimates the
The
forces
Entwives.
of Linden. He's like Gilgalad's back is against the wall, and as you said, Christy, literally, Numenor has to come and save them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is the first time Numenor saves them. This isn't even when Ar-Pharazôn comes. This is before that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
Yes.
it's so many things that happen. Sauron takes over the world multiple times,
Right.
and they can't do shit. Excuse my language. Numenor has to come, otherwise they would have lost. And the dwarves are trapped in Khazad-dûm. They shut the gate and they can't come out and help. They try, but they have to go and retreat into Khazad-dûm. There's so many things that could be talked about.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you be a consultant on this, New? I feel like you could just go off for a couple of hours on this stuff.
I feel
love
like
it.
Amazon should just hire the lot of us.
I'd be down. I'd be down.
Now, what about the wizards? The two blues.
Here's the thing. There are and New Christy, correct me if I'm wrong on my timeline. We could potentially there are two different versions of when the wizards arrive, because I think in one early Tolkien draft they came over at the beginning of the Second Age, and another one it was like in the middle of one of the ages. And whether or not they want to play into that, like, will we see an Ian McKellen cameo, or will we see, well, obviously not Christopher Lee, but I think it would be a cool idea to have the blue wizards sort of play their part and see where they go, just because they are such an enigma. You can kind of take a couple of creative liberties similar to how the video games did it.
Right.
And it doesn't need to be like an entire season focused on the blue wizards or like what they did, but like, let's see them. Let's introduce this idea that there is more to the world beyond the borders of Gondor and Mordor, right? Like the map that we see in Tolkien's books is not all of Middle Earth. It's just not, mapped out in a way that it has been really delved into all that much.
Yeah. The reason why I bring them up is because I feel like you see a lot of companies, as they touch these kind of legacy nerd intellectual properties, they've learned over time to kind of stray away from what's established, right? Because they want to avoid the nerd rage. So which, fair, and also thank you, right? But so that's why I bring them up, because there's something that is very, very vague as far from a Tolkien perspective, and so that's why I think it'd be something that they might want to dabble into.
Right. And to kind of what you said and what we were talking about earlier is it's smart of them to kind of fill in these question marks within the world and the lore, things that aren't like officially canon or have like a period at the end of. With the blue wizards, Tolkien kind of started writing them and then never really established them as characters, so they're like pretty open to interpretation. So it would be easy to take the blue wizards and like run with them because they can do literally anything, right? And so that's a good thing. That's exciting. I like the idea of taking something that hasn't been super established in Tolkien's world and moving forward with it. But there still has to be an element of fan service, obviously, to
For sure.
interested. But I think the blue wizards are so poorly established, in my opinion, that it would be really weird for Amazon to spend $1 trillion on a show about them.
Fair. Totally fair.
I think it would kind of like, then it would to go off on a tangent, and then things just wouldn't really, we don't know whether they turned bad or whether they were fighting against Sauron's forces in the east, and they were like holding the Easterlings and the Wayne Riders at bay for a bit. We don't know. So to make a speculation about that would kind of be like, I think, a poor choice.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah.
No, that's a great point.
They need to do a lot of like outside of like familiar Middle Earth world building to make it like substantial or interesting, and I just don't trust that they have the chops to do it yet. I think like incorporating the blue wizards into the Second Age and what's going on, like cutting to them wherever they may be, doing whatever they may be outside of like core Middle Earth would be very cool. But the rumors and the speculations of the show being about them is like insane to me.
For sure.
I think they could do something like, so we know Saruman goes into the east, And when he comes back, that's actually when he gets Orthanc. He gets it. It's actually after, which we're going to probably speak about, the War of the Rohirrim, when it gets actually taken over by the Dunlendings. And then after they free it, they give it to Saruman. So when Saruman's in the East, we could have a cameo of him meeting with the Blue Wizards. That would be fine. Something like, hey, what's going on? You know, they allude to maybe doing something, but not something straightforward as to they're definitely doing this or they're definitely doing that. And it would give people a peace of mind that, hey, we saw the Blue Wizards. And then when Saruman comes back, everything in full circle. We know they're doing both these shows. They can tie in together. Oh, when Saruman comes back, that's when he gets Orthanc after the War of the Rohirrim. Oh, wow, boom. There's a bunch of things they could tie together if they just know how to do it right. So I think that would be interesting.
Yeah.
I was kind of timing these topics, and you actually hit the timing perfectly to segue right into what is the most recent announcement that we've heard about. I know everybody is very excited about the War of the Rohirrim animated movie. This is, I believe it's a Warner Brothers piece as well.
Yep.
Which is great. This is supposed to dig kind of into the history of Helm's Deep and takes place during the rule of Helm Hammerhand. If you don't know who that is and you only know the movies, Helm Hammerhand is Theoden's grandfather, who obviously his namesake is Helm's Deep. And he's the ninth king of Rohan, right? Mm-hmm. So what are we hoping to see here, y'all?
No, Christy, go ahead.
So, I'll just preface and say a couple of things that I like about this decision. One, I like that they're going an animated route. I kind of personally feel like this is the best way, the best like media avenue to kind of tell these high fantasy stories is through animation. And like I was telling you guys earlier before we went live is, I mean, it's been proven that people enjoy watching these animated retellings. Like look at Castlevania and Invincible. Incredible. Like truly incredible. Invincible especially was like a fantastic adaptation. So I think this is great that they're going to do an animated one-off movie of such an interesting and almost what feels like a random character, right?
Yeah. Like
Helm Hammerhand. I don't think unless you're like really into like Middle Earth lore, you know immediately who that is. But a very interesting character. A fun fact about him is, and something that I'm really excited to see if they move forward with this, is he was a really interesting character in regards to his approach to war. So I think that there's going to be a lot of really incredible battle scenes with this. And my favorite thing about Helm, and the reason why he's called Helm Hammerhand, is because his philosophy with battle is he goes in and fights barehanded and just beats the bricks off of people with his bare hands.
Oh yeah.
Because he has a belief that if he doesn't strike somebody with a weapon, he can't be struck with one himself, which I think is just super sick, right?
So cool, right? Like,
yeah.
If you need a hook for like anyone who needs a good hook for a good D&D character, it's like, yeah, I don't use weapons.
Exactly.
No one can harm me.
That's a great idea, Don. I'm stealing that.
You're welcome.
Another
and that's not how he goes either. So maybe he was right.
Well, no. I think a thing to be interested in as well is that this is Warner Brothers, right? So, and as Christy brought up earlier in the pre-show, we were nerding out as well, but they bring up how Christy brought up how Helm Hammerhand in the Warner Brothers video game canon is actually a Nazgul, becomes a Nazgul. So, which is not true canon, but it's Warner Brothers canon and it's a Warner Brothers movie. So,
yes.
What do y'all think we'll see of Helm Hammerhand? Do you think that we're going to get more of a true canon? What would be the strengths of going either way with this Helm Hammerhand?
I feel like you kind of cheapen Helm Hammerhand sacrifice if he does become like, I like the Helm Hammerhand thing from the video game a little bit, but I don't know. I don't think I'd be into kind of changing something so drastically from the books just to tie in with another video game that you made. That's just me, though.
I don't think that's a good way to go. I agree with Dom.
Yeah. But that being said, it will be interesting to see how they sort of tie in on this. And look, full disclosure, I'm just happy that it's animated and being directed by Kenji Kaminawa, the guy that did the Ghost in the Shell standalone comics, because that means we could potentially see more Lord of the Rings animated stuff. And it has been my dream to see/help create the Silmarillion anime, because I don't think you can do
Gotta do it.
Silmarillion live action. It's too much.
It's too much. Yeah.
I agree.
Everybody
Yeah.
talks about how he worked on Ghost in the Shell, but for all you fellow Gen Xers out there, you should also know he did backgrounds for DuckTales.
I thought you were
Okay.
going to say Akira, because he also had his hand in Akira, too.
Oh man, you guys are bringing out the stuff I don't know about. Yeah.
Akira, DuckTales, and Ghost in the Wow.
What can't my mans do?
Is it wrong that I'm even more excited to know that he has worked on those other two?
Yeah.
If I may, one of the things that I'm most excited about this series is I know Helm is a really cool character, but if we think back to the Two Towers when Faramir was talking about the Easterlings, he was like, I wonder if he's really evil. We look at the Dunlendings and then we say, are they really evil? Because actually what happens and how they even got the land, and I was explaining this in one of my TikToks, they're not really evil people. Actually, the land of Kalanathon was actually their land, part of it. They lived there. And then Rohan was gifted this, the men from the north who actually became the Rohirrim, they were gifted this land from the king of Gondor for helping. And then, they kind of moved in. And that's why there's always a tension between the two peoples, because it's kind of a political thing. If you look at it, they're like, well, you moved in here and we're here. And then we look at what actually happens in the War of the Rohirrim. Now, Helm is the king, and then he has a war council or a regular council, and then Freka is on the council, but Freka is a man of Rohan that is mixed strongly. He has more strongly Dunlending blood than he does Rohan blood. So it's also the mingling of bloods, which actually happens in Gondor as well. The Gondorian line gets mingled down and it's mixed, and their king isn't as pure as the king in Arnor as Aragorn's line. So now he says, okay, well, I want my son Wolf to marry your daughter, and then he has intentions because the Dunlendings are kind of getting screwed over. So he's like, oh well, let me help them marry my son, and then our line will be more Dunlending. So he has his thoughts, which aren't necessarily evil, but they aren't good either. But then Helm's response isn't necessarily a good response.
Yeah.
So it's like, who's right, who's wrong? And I know as, the antagonist, Helm is going to look like he's right, but is he really? Because that's not always the case. It's not just cut and paste the black and white. So I think that's a really, really, really interesting story, because you get to look and you get to see these Dunlendings and what happens to them and why their motivations are. And even at the end of the Two Towers, after the wild men, the Dunlendings get defeated, they let them go. And they're like, wow,
Yep.
I thought you guys were jerks. I thought you were going to kill us. That's what Saruman was telling us,
Yep.
because he's using that against them, their history.
And I think
they're like, no.
And I think, we could probably have, this could be the first time we could see a Lord of the Rings property where maybe there is a little bit of morally gray area, right? Like before it's, the good guys of the Fellowship versus the bad guys, Sauron and Saruman, the little underling. But Helm Hammerhand's not like the best of
best.
people.
Right.
He kind of handled that a little
Poorly. He made some poor life choices.
That's my opinion from the the lore of me reading and understanding it. But I'm still on Helm's side. Don't get me confused. But,
Just so long as we can get some of the
interesting.
as long as we can get some of the shield maidens. I want to see I want to see more of the female riders of Rohan absolutely kick butt in this.
Yeah, and Theoden's line comes from
Right.
Helm's kids get killed.
Right.
So that's how the line switches to the
Spoilers.
the shit or something. Which is maybe I'm getting too much into the lore.
No,
We're
no,
so
no.
deep into the appendices right now.
We are literally here to nerd out about the lore. So do not.
Do we have another
Sorry.
7 hours of this panel to go?
Yeah,
Can we...
seriously, we're gonna have to make this a weekly show.
Hey, I'd be down.
And just to piggyback off that, aren't the men of the mountain, the army of the dead, technically Dunlendings?
Yeah,
Right.
right?
Yeah, they're Dunlending. If I'm not mistaken, they're a different group, but they're still Dunlending. If I'm not mistaken,
Christy, I don't know a thing about that, so please, if you do, go ahead.
I want to check that out. But I think they're like a large group of the people there, and they're just a separate group, behind Dunharrow. But they're Dunlendings.
Yeah,
So
no.
that's interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I'll co-sign that, New, because I think you're correct.
if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But
Well, I'm never wrong, so.
Quick,
You're
predict exactly what the Amazon show is going to say, and you'll absolutely be right.
So to the
I'm excited about the War of the Rohirrim, and a lot of people don't know that's where the horn of Helm Hammerhands come. I know we were talking about it earlier,
Right.
Christy.
Yep.
I know we were
Yeah.
talking
Yes.
about it earlier. So when you see Gimli blow that horn, or when you see Theoden say the horn of Helm Hammerhand will sound again in the deep, before every battle, he would blow the horn and he would go and beat the living daylights out of the enemy. So with his bare hands, like Christy said, yes. So that's where that comes from. And the name Helm's Deep, it was actually called, there's 3 other names for it. I don't want to mispronounce them, so I'm going to let Don, who's better at the pronunciation.
Oh God, you put me on the spot. So as far as my understanding is, it Helm's Deep is the actual like the deep physical structure, like the land structure, but the Hornburg itself is what the like physical bricks are. And there's this, I don't know if anybody else has seen it, but there's this weird legend that I've seen floating around that like Helm's Deep was originally made by giants, but like I'm remembering,
it was made by the men of Gondor. It was
yeah, there's this weird
like,
thing that goes around that's like, no, it was made by giants, but I think that might just be like a movie tie-in.
We lost your
know.
video, Christy.
Okay. Yeah, but it's because my iPad's dying.
Oh no. Get the charger.
You're
Yep,
back.
You're back. Cool.
Plug that thing in.
Yeah.
I can't.
Oh no.
Oh wait, yes I can. I lied to you guys. I'm so
There
sorry.
you go. There you go.
It's like so like just since we're kind of talking about it anyway.
Yeah, please.
So the Númenóreans built obviously they built Minas Tirith and Orthanc, and they're made of the same stone. But the reason that Helm's Deep isn't made of that same stone, but they were built by the same people of that lineage, is because when the just like I said, the mingling of the people happened, the Gondorians became a little lesser than the Númenóreans, even though they're the same race of people, but they weren't full-blooded Númenóreans. They built that. So it's still great skill that built Helm's Deep, but it's not as strong as Orthanc, which is known as Mount Fang, and it is as strong as Minas Tirith. Now, in the movies, we see them shooting, bricks over, the army, and it's breaking the walls of Minas Tirith. That's complete cap. For number one, the outside wall was not white, it was black, and it was impenetrable. That's why Grond was so important, and they had to break the only weak part, the gate. So I kind of didn't like that part, but I still love the movies. But it's very important that it was impenetrable, invulnerable. It couldn't do anything. Even the Ents were hurting themselves when they were trying to attack Orthanc. They couldn't do anything, and the Ents are stronger than pretty much everything.
Yeah.
So,
Does anyone want to just sit here and listen to New talk about Lord of the Rings for like 6 more hours?
Every day.
Yes.
Yes, for sure. To the point earlier about maybe tying in fan servicey things, what do you think we could expect for this movie from a fan servicey perspective?
If I may, there is one that I kind of went over this on my Twitch channel, twitchtv.com/JohnMarshall72, by the way. Glam, you definitely encouraged us to promote ourselves.
Without a doubt.
That's my one. That's my one until we get to the end.
Yeah.
So I looked at the timeline on my Twitch channel with everyone, and I realized that Thorin Oakenshield is born a little bit after after Helm Hammerhand is. So our wild theory is that we will get the most bizarre baby or teenage Thorin Oakenshield somehow tied into this. Granted, I don't think we actually will, but I think if you want to go full on crazy, that would just be the way to do it.
Well, maybe we'll also have a Thrain or a Thror then as well.
Yeah, we
Very
could see
possible.
some of the dwarves.
Yeah.
that would be awesome. Now that would definitely be awesome, and we could see the glittering caves as well.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be awesome. I'm pretty sure they're definitely gonna have to put the glittering caves in.
I hope so.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Why do you think
Yeah.
they'll have to? Just for
Well, it's the only place. So Helm's Deep, you can't really escape from Helm's Deep, but the caves, you can get out of the caves. So if they were there, they would have to mention a way to escape. They can't escape out of, the back of Helm's Deep. There's no way out, but there's a way to get out through the caves, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So, and since they're, he has to retreat there, that has to be brought up at some point, I believe.
Hope
That's
so.
my thought.
Yeah,
Tristan.
and it also just seems like a missed opportunity to not introduce the dwarves in some capacity during this time.
So, yeah, I know that they don't, until Gimli sees the caves, they don't really go and want to, see them and everything, but it's a way to plug, we already have the Lord of the Rings property from the movies, so plug it shamelessly as you can and make things connect. So, the glittering caves, plug that. They didn't do us justice as far as that goes, with the Gimli and the Legolas friendship. That was one of the things that tied them even closer together. Him loving the caves so much, and then Legolas agreeing, even though he didn't care about the caves, being like, "I'll go to see them with you."
Yeah.
That's a big step.
Yeah, their relationship is actually a really big deal, right? Because it basically starts the healing between the two races.
Yeah.
The Galadriel actually started the healing.
Right.
When Galadriel spoke to him in Lothlorien.
Right.
And after Gandalf's fall, and Celeborn completely kind of loses it when he hears that Gandalf's dying. He kind of like, these dwarves, he's kind of upset. And Galadriel's like, don't let the darkness of Khazad-dûm, and then she speaks the ancient names to him, and he's like, wow. And then he looks at her, and he kind of falls in love with her, and her
Kind
giving
of?
the hair,
Same.
Kind of.
her giving the hair is the big step. Her giving the hair that she refused to give her uncle Fëanor, the greatest elf of all time, in might and strength and skill and all of these things. She refused to give it to him, but gives it to the enemy, their counterpart. Even Eru says they're not going to get along. Even the one God says these two people are not going to get along. So that is the start of the healing process. And then Legolas looking at how Gimli reveres Galadriel and seeing a dwarf love her so much is what starts the healing, like between them, and then they become the closest of friends. And I always overtalk. I apologize.
No. This is like one of the best things to overtalk on, honestly. I love this portion of the story. And to add to that, one of my favorite aspects of Middle Earth lore is when Legolas and Gimli go to the Undying Lands themselves, and Gimli's the first and only dwarf to set foot in the Undying Lands, and he went purely just so he could see Galadriel again.
Yeah.
And he was let in, which is like
my favorite thing of all time is Tolkien doesn't mention it at all, but it's a headcanon of mine. I just like to think about Galadriel's husband just kind of sitting there, seeing the dwarf that is clearly in love with his wife, just being like, you let him in? And now he's gonna stay here? Like, honey, we need to talk.
Y'all, we sadly are about at the end of our time and are going to have to bring this to a close. We got 30 seconds, so I can't thank you all enough for being here. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into our panel. Thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your day. New, Don, Christy, thank you so much for joining us here. GCX, don't forget this event is benefiting the kids, so go donate to St. Jude, please.
Go donate.
And if y'all want to,
thank you.
If y'all want to go ahead and do little closers, tell people where they can find you. We'll go the opposite direction. New, if you want to start.
So please look me up on TikTok, and then you will see my other pages and everything. But TikTok, KnewBettaDoBetta, BETTA, not ER, all one word, KnewBettaDoBetta. Please come follow me, and then follow my Patreon, where I'm going to start teaching Lord of the Rings classes, and I'll be giving away Lord of the Rings merch and KnewBettaDoBetta merch. And I have a YouTube channel that I'm going to expand upon. So thank you.
Hell yeah, thank you, Don. Hit it.
I am Don Marshall 72 on literally every social media platform of all time. That's a great cat. I'm live on Twitch. I'm live on TikTok. TikTok is my main one, though. I'm doing a giveaway on my Instagram. I'm actually giving away one of these Lord of the Rings cups from Burger King in 2001. It still glows. I've been drinking out of it this entire time, thinking it was so cool. Yeah, that's all I got.
Christy.
Okay, you can find my Lord of the Rings Tolkien podcast. It's called You Have My Sword. It's anywhere podcasts live, like Spotify and Apple or whatever. And then you can find me on Twitter, where I love to shitpost at KrystiPryde. And you can find me on Instagram. I post chainmail and drawings there.
Cool.
All right.
And I've been your host, Glam Shatterskull. I am a Twitch streamer. I stream here on Twitch 4 or 5 days a week. We've been playing a lot of Lord of the Rings games. I also do a lot of Warhammer. I'm a big Warhammer nerd, so I paint Warhammer miniatures from time to time. And we like to play weird, trippy, wizard-based indie games as well. So,
Love it.
yeah.
What a cool brand.
Hey,
Yes, sir.
yeah, I'm basically like the blacklight room in the back of a head shop in 1978.
Oh my god.
Hey, thank you all for joining us. I appreciate you greatly.
Yes,
It's
thank
been
you.
we're gonna have to do this
Thank
again.
you.
We're gonna also I'm gonna make all of you play Lord of the Rings online with me. We are on Arkenstone if you all want to come join us.
I'm coming, man. We're gonna do it.
Hell yeah. Thank y'all.
Love it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.